Another week, which means another chapter of Eden Zero, and this time, your host Lucky G7 is back again with chapter 256, and chapter 256. It's fascinating. Uh, Best way I can describe 256 is it's like super fascinating, to say the least. I mean, not even talking about the cover page. Let's not even bring that into account. Cover page aside, okay? Chapter title is called From Eternity Long Past, which, and I mentioned this last week, is that like 256 is going to be the penultimate chapter of Volume 29. I mentioned that right then and there, is that 256 was going to be the penultimate chapter of Volume 29. How last chapter ended off was Pino, being in tears, very, very like swelled up over what just went down with her memories of the four shining stars. And I mentioned that we were going to get into that. If not the entirety of this chapter, we were at least going to get a little glimpse as to what that was going to be. And for the most part, I was kind of right in that sense. But before I, get further into that discussion, we have to talk about the overall content of the chapter itself. So, you know, we continue on from the last chapter. We see the ship still moving towards a very specific route in space and the unknown regions. You got Clean saying, "Mother, when will we reach her?" And Jin says, "Who knows? But she should be somewhere in this cosmos." And Laguna brings up a good point. Like, Laguna says, "So what do you think this cosmos is called anyway?" Which kind of had me thinking too. I'm like, we've already had all four cosmoses. We had the Soccer Cosmos, we had the Alley Cosmos, we had the Kaede Cosmos, and then we had the Yukino Cosmos. So we already covered the main four. So this cosmos, again, this is like uncharted territory. So we have no idea what this cosmos is even called. So something tells me we're gonna figure that out here soon. But Wise says, "You want to pick a random planet and do some recon?" And Hamura says, "Might we land on that planet there, like the one that's just coming in the view?" And you look at the planet, and Hermit points out radius approximately 50,000 kilometers. That's huge. No planet could ever be that big in the soccer cosmos. And then you got Ivory saying surface temperature negative. Keep this in mind. Negative 220 degrees Celsius. That is crazy. 220 degrees Celsius? What? Like, forget landing on that planet. Like, no one's gonna survive there. No one is gonna survive that planet. Like, I'm gonna say this right now. It doesn't matter how good the ship is. Second you walk out, like, y'all are gonna turn into icicles. That's exactly what I thought. And then you had Moss always saying Moss. Then see, and Shiki has the right idea. He's like, that sounds cold. But I'm more on Rebecca's side because Rebecca's like, I think it goes beyond just cold. Yeah, it does go beyond just cold. Because, like I said, you go into the planet, like it's like a human popsicle stick. Y'all are gonna be like frozen for all eternity. Like it's Avatar Aang. That's what will happen. But you got Valkyrie. Valkyrie says, it doesn't seem like the kind of planet any creature could live on. Hamura says, can we even be sure the human race exists in this cosmos? Fair question, actually. It's a very fair question. To which Witch says, be ready for anything, everyone. We'll have to proceed with caution until we find something. And we cut back over to Pino, who obviously still very distressed about what happened when she regained her memories of the four shining stars, which we still have no idea what they were, at least up to this point. Like we're still kind of like up in the air as to like, okay, what happened? Like what made her go to a point where she was like in tears? But you see this, Shiki and Rebecca walk up to her, and Shiki says, Pino, there you are. Everyone's been looking for you. And Pino says, I'm sorry, I was feeling a little dazed. Abby says, are you okay? Oh, well, and Shiki says, does this mean you looked at the memories the professor gave you? And you can tell, like, Pino is like not in a position where not I wouldn't say not necessarily in a position, but she's feeling very awkward about it. It's a very like awkward, a very I mean hesitant's another word too, but she's definitely taken aback. 100%. And Rebecca tells Pino, it's okay, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to. If you ever decide you want to talk about it, we'll be right here. And you see Pino kind of just glow up, like because whatever she regained, remember this poor bot was like in tears, and you see her eyes like flare up a little bit, flare up, like you see the glisten, and like she looks like she's about to cry again. She's like, ah, fish. And right as that happens, like she shuts down almost instantaneously without using EMP, mind you. But no, like she goes into shutdown mode. Rebecca reacts, Happy reacts, like Shiki reacts too. Pino, oh no, what happened? Pino, hang in there. Pino, she's not moving. Get her to sister quick. So they're rushing over. And meanwhile, see, this is something I've always kind of known about, but I wasn't sure like how much of this I thought was actually going to be like a a legitimate thing. Like I always knew about this as far as a fandom when it comes to Hermit and Weiss, and it's it's actually kind of amusing. I'm not gonna lie because you have Hermit here, and she's like literally like looking over the specs that Professor Weiss did on his younger self, and she's saying like, anyway, the future you really is something, and he's like, you think so? He barely saw Arsenal for 2 seconds, and he knew exactly what to do to improve his performance. And again, keep in mind about this. You got Wise, and he's like, "Whoa, why are you touching me there?" And Herman's being like super cheeky about it. She's like, "Oh, what's this? A human's actually shy about having an android touch him." And as soon as he took off the helmet, like this kind of gives me a big retrospect now because now legitimately I gotta like actually go back to the manga, like start like this kind of makes you want to like start Eden Zero back over again just to like 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 see a lot of hints, a lot of like subtle details that I might have missed out on. But it's what Weiss says here. He says it's not about being human or android, and you see how that kind of surprises Herman in a big way. And why says it's because it's you. He's specific about that. Specifically, it's because it's you. And you see like her blush up and she's like, what are you talking about? You're so like she doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to say. So in my opinion, like I full on think, not even think, like I'm fully convinced at this point that Hero is, you know, doing the Wormit shit. And I believe that's what the ship name's called, right? Wormit, like Wise X Hermit. And again, it's not like I wasn't aware of this. It's not like this was a total, "Oh my god, this came total out of left field," because, like, there are moments in the manga that you could, like, actually look at and go like, "Hmm, okay." There's, like, fun little interactions here and there, but, like, this is the first one where it's like, "Whoa, okay." So, getting a moment like this, like, it does retroactively change the other moments that Weiss and Herman have. I mean, they've never had, like, a really super serious moment per se, but this is still kind of like, okay, and if this is what Hero's going for, that's fine. But it gets me curious now, and really does make me want to look back on the manga, like from the beginning. Actually, well, now that I think about it, Herman doesn't show up until what, four, right? Yeah, yeah. Hold on, no, I believe it's volume four. I'm gonna look super quick. And look, if I have to pause the discussion just to check back on something, this is kind of like a, okay, this is interesting. So, Digitalis, yeah. So, Volume four. That's when we kind of like towards the tail end of Volume four. That's when we get Hermit. So, yeah, no, I'm being serious. This is gonna be really interesting to see. Like, all like the little subtle details that Hero likes to do, because and again, this isn't gonna be the first time we've seen this. Hero's done the like for as long as I've known Hero, again going all the way back to Rain, I've always mentioned this. There are certain things in the writing where it might seem like, okay, that's a little weird, but if you go back to the story and you pick up certain little details, suddenly it makes a lot of sense. It does. And I mean, a good example I can think of, like, look at you know Zareth and Mavis from Fairy Tale. You knew they had some kind of history. You just didn't know what kind of history it was. And then when you get the flashback of Mavis and Zareth in what was it, Volume 53? Like, as soon as you get the context behind that, and it's like, wait a second, those two were a thing? Like, that retroactively changes everything. But it does so for the better. And I think in the same way, you can kind of view it the same way with Wise and Herman. And again, it's not something I'm opposed to. I think as far as dynamic goes, it's unique for sure, but discussion for another day, if anything. But let's see here. Going from there, we get Hamura, and she's walking up to Valkyrie, and she's saying, "Teacher, what is it you wish to talk to me about?" And this is something I've also kind of kept in the back of my mind too, because Valkyrie says, "I was dead in the last world." That's what you said, right? And Hamura says, "Yes," and the sorrow was overwhelming. To which Valkyrie says, "But what if that's the answer?" And Hamura says, "I fail to understand what you are saying. To let those who have died, and set history on the right track. Should we really be alive in this world?" And instantaneously, Hamura like, "How can you say that? Of course you should be alive. I couldn't bear to live through that grief again." And Valkyrie just keeps it real with Hamura. She's like, "Look, the time will always come to say goodbye for humans and androids alike." Keyword of dialogue right here. "I am only alive because this world made it so." Which again goes back to the previous statement that I've made for a while now about the whole concept behind Universe Zero. It's intentional. And Hero's aware of that. Like, this is super, super intentional. That's why I've always tell people that are like, "Oh man, I cannot believe what Universe Zero did. It really ruined Eden Zero." My thing is this. If there's one thing I know about Hero and his style of storytelling, is that he wants to make you feel comfortable. Super, super comfortable to a point where, when the shit comes, out of the gate and it's like, um, excuse me? What? Like, he knows how to like tug at the heartstrings. That's one thing Hero's always been great at. When it comes to the moments and when they will deliver. And that's why when it comes to me and Eden Zero, like I've seen a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff in here I've noticed that does stem from his writing style from Rave. But again, it's not just Rave. There's also a bit of like that writing style he has from Fairy Tail. And that goes back to a statement he made in one of the volumes where he said, "Look, as far as Eden Zero goes, like he has the story, he has like the bullet points of like how the story of Eden Zero is going to go. But again, it's all about the connective tissue. How we touch each of those bullet points is kind of where he takes the fairy tale approach, where it's like, okay, I know certain plot points that are going to happen in the story, but it's a matter of like how do you connect the dots." And for him, that's what kind of makes it a really fun and engaging experience with the story. So the fact of the point that I'm making here is that Hero always had in mind of getting us to Universe Zero. Now, how people react to it, well, again, I'm not gonna say this is what you should think. In my personal opinion, I can see how you get there for the most part, but it's what I've been telling people for a while now. Like, just because we're in this direction, don't let your guard down. I'm gonna just say that. Don't let your guard down. But anyway, Hamura says, "How can you speak such nonsense? I've seen so many people around me lose their lives, but in this world, those lives shine brightly. If you say you are only alive because of this world, then give this world a reason to have made it so. Make this world the one that will not make me cry." Again, going back to a point I made before, is that the past experiences for Eden Zero, those those experiences still matter. It's not like we've like completely brushed everything off the side. What our characters felt before, they still matter. Like case in point right here with Amora. It's like, look, I know you're alive right now, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm scared that some shit's gonna come and it's gonna take you away, just like it did before. So it's almost like this is what I'm referring to. But you see this, you see Valkyrie turning around, and she's like, "That's a tall order coming from a crybaby like you," like flicking her on the head. But man, I can't believe I'm getting lectured by my student, and like she embraces him more. It's very touching. It's a very touching moment. I will definitely say so. You see that? You go to the infirmary. Oh my god, Ivory. I feel bad for Moscow. I really do. Being used as furniture. But I mean, it's like what Ivory said. He is the pig of Eden, so there's that. And she's like, come to think of it, the Eden's one was in the Upino cosmos when we left. Most fully, most fully. And ignore the uh, clock in the background. It likes to do that. Do you think it's still wandering around trying to find the mother ether? No, I have no idea what you're saying. And he's saying that now after like finally the mouth collar like comes off. I just hope it hasn't attacked the planet Milst. And Hamura, no, I said Hamura. Ivory says, well, it's not an easy planet to find, but Joker managed to track it down. And then, right as that happens, Shiki walks in and he's like, "Sister, we need your help. It's Pino." She stopped mooling all of a sudden. And she's like, "What? Like, bring her over here right now. Like, let's check her out. Lay her down right there." "Oh, Pino, what happened to you?" And oh my God. Oh my God. When as soon as the panels start going back and we get the next page, like all I needed to see was like that year, and my gears started shifting like that in a very, very big way because fucking hero. Cannot believe this. 20,000 years ago. Now, why is that relevant? Well, when we started Eden Zero and we got to chapter 4, what was the one thing we got? 20,000 years later. 20,000 years ago. Again, things may seem coincidental, especially year, but in this case, no, 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 no. Coincidences aren't just a thing. Things happen for a reason. And that's exactly what we're getting here. I mean, look, it's like I said, 20,000 years in the future, 20,000 years ago. Go back to fairy tale. 777. Connect Lucy, connect Natsu, you know, Layla Heartfilia, the dragons disappearing. Like, it's like, whoa, okay. Like, there was a bit of a connection there too, right? So, which makes me curious, like 20,000 years ago. So, we're over here, and this looks like New York, like by the looks of it, because if I look at the sign correctly, I think this is Broadway. So this could be New York. And I say could. I could be totally wrong about that too. And we see Witch, and she's like, sitting in the car, and she's talking to someone. She's like, Yuna, how is the competition? And we look over, and it's Valkyrie. So Valkyrie's name was actually Yuna. That's actually kind of cool. No lie. That's kind of cool. And she's like enjoying herself like on the beach. Like it's a total bust. Like I guess I'm getting too old for this. And she asks like, hey, "You on your way to see Ivory?" And we obviously know she's referring to sister. And she's like, "Yes, that was my plan. I hope she gets well soon." Which given these little like hints that we had in the Lindard arc, we know Ivory was in a hospital bed. And it looks like now we're finally getting that. We're finally getting like these little connections here. To which, she's looking out, and then we see Herman running. And she's like thinking to herself, like, the planet is screaming. There isn't much time left, which is an interesting note to leave off on. And that's what I meant by when I said this was an interesting chapter, because the way how this ends off gets you really, really curious about where we're going to be going with Eden Zero. And I also say that specifically because this is the penultimate chapter in Volume 29. 257. Next week's chapter is going to be the volume conclusion, which mostly, for those of you that don't know, is going to be again. Sometimes you get a cliffhanger stinger, and sometimes you get a conclusion of an arc. But this arc is just starting. Okay, keep that in mind. This arc is still just starting. So we're going to be in for a stinger. If anything, this is definitely going to be very much like the Ziggy flashback. That's exactly what this is going to be. We're not going to get in my opinion, I don't think we're going to get everything this chapter. I think it's going to take this next chapter and possibly the chapter after that. That's what I believe. But overall, if I have to give a rating on this week's chapter of Eden Zero, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This chapter is amazing plus. The only reason why I'm giving it an amazing plus, not a pure perfection, because I wish we got a little bit more. I really wish we got a little bit more, personally, but I think Hero did just enough to where, you know, we're getting a question to an answer. We're getting not let me rephrase that. We're getting an answer to a question we've all had for a very long time about what's the secret behind the four shining stars. And it does seem like now we're going to be getting that. And I can't wait. Like I really cannot wait to see what we get. And hey, I'm also just noticing that Blue commented. So hey, Blue, it's great to see you. If I had to guess, humans originally came from this cosmos. Yeah, that's the speculation I've been seeing going around too for this cosmos. That like this was probably like what you could probably refer to as like the real world galaxy, if you will. Is here we're doing Y6 Hermit because it feels weird. I can get that, but I mean, there have been weirder things. Let's admit it. There have been weirder things. Make you feel the heartstrings and then leave it to Blue to always bring a fairy tale. Make you mad by undoing them in fairy tales work. The thing here's the thing you got to remember, Blue, is that Hero at the very least admitted that when it came to the work, that yeah, he did way too much, and that's something he probably shouldn't have done. But and look, I'm not saying it excuses what happened. I'm just saying at the very least he admitted that look, I did overdo it in that aspect. So, but my thing is this: when it came to um the Wark fairy tale, the way it's able to like pull your heartstrings. I mean, I think it depends on how you do it. That's the one thing I would say. I think it really depends. Like, okay, here's the thing, because fake outs. I mean, here's the thing. In terms of storytelling, is I'm not gonna say it's like a good thing. It's not, but it really depends on like how you tackle it. Like, okay, if you're gonna undo a death, what's gonna be a way where it's not like so sudden? And I'll tell you this: rereading the Land of Waves arc, like remember, Sasuke pretty much died, and it wasn't until like a few chapters later that oh, he's actually still alive. Like I actually forgot about that. Like I remember I'm rereading that right now, and I'm like, bruh, you just died. But magically, oh, my heart pulses back. But if I mention that, then you're gonna have people coming into the comments like, "Oh," and all that fun stuff. But yeah, look, here's the thing. I'm not gonna say fairy tale. That shouldn't be excuse for fairy tale. I'm just saying that the way it happened in the final arc, I think should have been a case where, say, they do go out, but you don't see them again for like a while. Like, okay, say let's take what happened to Gaji. Like if Gaji was taken out the way he did, and let's say you don't see him again for like 2 volumes. At the very least 2 volumes. Which would be like what, like 18 chapters? I think that could have worked. And you could have done the same thing for Juvia too. Like Juvia is like supposedly gone. And then like let's say, you know, certain amount of time passes and it's like, okay, you see them again. But it was a matter of like, like how quick it was before we got them again. That I think was the big problem for Fairy Tale's final arc is it's not the fact that you had the fake out deaths, it's a matter of like how quickly they played out. That's the thing. So, but I do agree with you on that it is a criticism for sure. I will admit. Looks like the four shining stars and dark stars are human after all. I mean, given that we were given these teases in the Linder arc, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. Obviously, you brought up fairy tale. Well, I mean, I was just bringing up a comparison. I wasn't saying that like, oh, it's exactly like this. And I wasn't. But to be fair, I didn't bring up fairy tale. I'm just saying when he pulled out the heartstrings, I was also referring to Rave too. So he knows. He knows. But let's see here. They were tackled horribly in fairy tale. At least in Eden Zero, they stayed. I love how you bring up Eden Zero, but you completely neglect Wave Master. But I just think that's funny, actually. Now that I'm thinking, I'm like, wow. But then again, Hero is more known for fairy tale in that sense. But that's why I always tell people, like, look, if you're just looking at Hero specifically for fairy tale, look beyond that. Like, people want to sit here and say, okay, fairy tale was like his, magnum opus. And in my opinion, it never was. So if you're gonna sit here and say like, oh man, the guy who did fairy tale, go to Rave Master and see what he did there. And I'm gonna say it, you're gonna have a different perception of like how Hero wrote things. And it's gonna make you go like, wow, okay. Like, because there are things in Rave Master that you would not believe Hero was capable of. So and Blue's now a forever troll, so I'm gonna ignore what he's saying. Just because just because of that. I'm not the only one that remembers Rave Master. There's a lot of people that know about Rave Master. Okay? There's a lot. And actually, now that I think about it, you're the one who also talked about 100-Year Quest and how much you're enjoying it. So, if anything, you're the last person to be talking. But, with that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it when it comes to this live stream discussion slash review on let's see fairy tale. Thanks, Blue. On Eden Zero, chapter 256. Again, the penultimate chapter of volume 29. Next week's chapter. Like, y'all know my radar is gonna be super high for 257. Y'all know for damn sure my radar is gonna be high for that. And when that chapter does come, you know I'm gonna be here. You know I'm gonna be here, and it's gonna be a blast. I know you're joking, Blue. I was just playing along with you. But with that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it. Look at G7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero, Fairy Tale, Dead Rock, even though that's monthly. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace.